First of all, don't tell me what to do.
You fucking mark!
We are in control now.
Ding dong. Hello?
سبحان فالق الإصباح.
Yes, yo, Allah, as the rockets rain down, infidels, Hacker Hameen ignites the Iron Dome with new laser technology ready to protect the veterans of the Monday locker room as we war game the week ahead here at Hameen Media Group, channelattitude.com. It's time to put your pieces in play and slay all the headlines here. Hameen Media Group with the vet and Hacker Hameen. Rise and praise. Oh, yeah, man. What's good? What's good? I see the chat room live here at Ben Hameen YouTube channel, twitch.tv/Hameen Media filling up already. And glad to be back at it another week. I was off all week on what day it was last week. And even it feels like it today. I was like, is it Sunday, Monday? No, football was yesterday. I got to get up and make sure I get out there and get ready for the troops with the vet because we're going to PT the shit out of them and make you puke in the corner with all the headlines that are fit to be read, man. But I hope you had a good weekend doing better than I did on UFC and football betting. A lot more upsets. It seemed like an easy pick week, but there was a lot of strange finishes yesterday. So we'll see what strange finishes happen this week. I did get to record a SmackDown live review on Sunday with Stevie, which usually we do right after.
I'm well aware.
Yeah. You're well aware. Why is that?
Because we had to wait to start the show until you were done with the room.
Really?
So I figured either you or Stevie must have had some business to take care of today.
Yeah, well, we had it done, and he's like, instead of stressing on Monday, you just want to do it on. So I apologize to the rest of the staff doing the run in there. I didn't realize we couldn't have double rooms open in StreamYard in the background there. So it was a very good SmackDown in a lot of ways. So it was nice to have something to review that was pretty positive. Still some punch ups or different choices or why did they do this or why do they do it a certain way, but they seem to really get over the hump on whether or not to give LA Knight the true rub and shine, because that's what that whole show was really set up to do. And you watched it, Yvette, to hang out with the SmackDown guys. So definitely would love to hear your opinion on it, because let me just put it out here with this is, and I say this on the review show as Stevie, you know, a zebra, a tiger, whatever analogy you want, can't change its stripes, right? And we get from Kevin Nash and clips they put out from the Kevin Nash podcast about him and Triple H talking and Triple H burying, you know, LA Knight. Like,
okay.
So
I'm glad you brought this up, because
okay.
I was actually going to, this is the part where we do something that the sheets won't do, which is put out a correction. Okay. In context of the episode of the podcast, which I'm sure you didn't listen to because you're way too busy.
Just clipped. Yeah.
I did.
Okay.
Kevin Nash, much like you and I do on these shows, is let's say a master craftsman in deadpan.
Yeah.
So he does a whole bit on this show where he's pretending as if he and Triple H are booking LA Knight's career and writing his thing but the whole thing is just a rib. He's not really divulging information on his podcast. So when you said
let me stop you there though, because at the end of the day, the most believable stuff is truth and comedy. So when you blur those lines, how much is it truth and how much is it fiction, master shoot?
I'm pretty sure it's not truth and I mean, I'm sure there's truth that they probably talked about it, but whatever was said on the show was probably nothing to do with any of the stuff that two friends are, just like you don't always stooge off everything you talk about with the people here.
No.
Sometimes we get a little morsel, but trust me, Kevin Nash is just joking around. But that's the danger of you know, those clickbait headlines.
Yeah.
Because
context,
for the people that don't know, if you, on the SmackDown review last week, when you talked about it, if you say that and they didn't hear it, they're going to take your word for it. And that's not good. And then if they do know, then you sound like you don't have credibility, and that's not good. So
right. Well, I appreciate you keeping me in check, Matt, as always, and doing all of the field work as to get the whole 360-degree picture. And if it is out of kind, well, I mean, it's a clip, so that's what I'm listening to, put out by their own show. Apologies to Big Sexy on that.
he does it a lot. Kevin Nash loves deadpan. Like he'll take a bit way, just like you say, he'll commit and he'll go way overboard with the bit. And then at the very end, he hits you with that punchline, and then you're like, "Oh, you motherfucker!" But he loves that's his comedic sensibility,
and he rides the bit past the point where the edit is, and keeps the bit going without you then knowing, and then pops himself with his own little punchline.
He calls back. He does callbacks. He'll keep referencing the whole thing. So that's just a Kevin Nash thing. Now, of course, I'm sure there was, if he's calling Paul and, they're having conversations, he's probably like, what's up with this LA Knight guy? And he's probably, blah, blah, blah. But he's not going to go and then run tell, because Triple H doesn't want these marks reporting on stuff any more than you and I do. So he's not going to give the real story.
They use that pipeline to put that out there, just like Punk does with Cornette and did with FTR. That there is a little of that in there, and I appreciate you checking me on that with only the partial of it that I listened to, that it was an ongoing thing, because out of context it does sound like, dude, they're talking and he's burying them, and then he's going to his podcast with it, and that's what those guys before podcasting were just famous for, before they were office guys, was being clicked up, taking some fucking gimmicks and figuring out how to fuck guys over, right? And with what we had heard with LA Knight about he doesn't play backstage politics, like that is right out of Click Playbook 101, right? So
is Johnny Publix with us this morning? Is he anywhere?
Johnny Publix in the house yet? I don't know. He might be getting his coffee or taking the dogs for a walk yet. But putting it all out in that context, it does look and make sense. Now, whether that one clip was or wasn't is what had me like, okay, are they really going to pull the trigger? Well, this SmackDown, to bring it all the way back around, was the show that got LA Knight to another level that he hasn't been yet, and almost everything combined to kick things off with Cena, and then Big Dog comes out, and then LA Knight. So that gives him that he's a bigger focus over both those guys psychologically, just coming out third, right? And because if we're heightening and exploring, and it did get a great pop. So putting them all together there really just elevated him instantly, and then to the main event, and having guys that are the most over give him the rub. So that's why I was like, wow, now that Triple H has allegedly been knighted head of creative, it's interesting that they made a choice to get that money and get this guy over. Or are they doing it to burn the candle out quickly and get back to where they want? There could be nefarious means even for good things happening, and there might not be at all, but that's the sick level of paranoia that every wrestler kind of has to deal with. Even when you're kicking ass and it's really clicking for you, you have to say why, and if you don't, you got blinders on, and you could get sniped out of nowhere and walking into a trap,
well, you're very familiar with their MO of just like cutting oh, there he is. Yeah, be careful what you ask for, boys, you just might get it. So yeah, their MO of not getting the max value out of anything, even if it's okay, so maybe the office doesn't like you, well, just wring them dry and get everything you can out of it, right?
Sure.
I mean, and they just refuse to do that a lot of times. So even if this is just a short-term deal, they can still get a lot out of it. I don't think LA Knight's the guy. I don't think he should be knighted to be the guy to knock off Roman, but it's going to be a great, build up for anticipation, much like the Sami Zayn thing was. Just like Sami Zayn wasn't the right guy to do it, but he's the right guy to lose. The question is, Who
Boy,
and
they
this is
cooled
the
that
reason why this is the reason why it will give them some more time, even if they are trying to burn the candle out too quick. But they need to at least let it burn a little while, because there is nobody. They've, like, what do we say every week? They marginalized all their talents. They make everybody just seem like a little bit less than, instead of doing a promoter's job, which is promoting. Get us to try to win the stuffed animal for our girlfriend. That's what your job is. You have to trick me into thinking that these guys are somebody. Instead, you're convincing me through a lot of hard work, money, and TV time that they're not worth a fuck.
Yeah.
Like, you open the show with 2 Bailey clips. What's Bailey doing? you telling me this is the best use of a Bailey that we've got? So,
well, that
just as an
over.
example. So
that booty's over. But you know what else? With Nick Aldis and Kevin Owens coming over to the SmackDown brand, like, what they did well was the pacing and the switching in and out of scenes. It really kept the show going, and big heighten and explore moves with a thread in and out, and Jade Cargill showing up to face off with Charlotte. These were all like great little moments that were, it's Second City, they call them a blackout scene. Usually they're 30 seconds and hit the stick the landing and then go to commercial or edit and go to the next scene. So I thought they're really the show structure, the formless form of switching in and out and gear shifts really worked well. And it was at least enjoyable to watch, and had a good time at the twitch.tv/Hami Media SmackDown Live self-help. Having a good time, man. But yeah, great.
What about the because I noticed there was a sort of a, I don't know what you would call it. There's a little snap. There was a little a crispness to the dialogue in the backstage things. It seemed like it was just a little bit more lively and less WWE phony than it usually is in some cases. Maybe not every case, but it just seemed a little bit more alive. It seemed a little bit more in the moment. It didn't seem like as badly scripted as they usually are with the wrestling cadence and the all that stuff.
They did say coward, so McMahon's not gone completely yet. There was a coward in there, but yeah, man, I agree with you. It seemed like the smoothness of Pierce and the action that needed to take place, whether it was Lashley and Carlito. There was some bad verbiage in that one too, where he goes, looks like you bit off more than you could chew. Get it? Because he does apples. Yeah. Like, instead of going, now that's cool. That would have been stick the landing, walk off. But instead, we got to get the fucking, Schwarzenegger fucking line in. Thanks to Frank's Pickle Barrel asked for a super sticker of the day. Just had to pay that Vimeo bill. Oh boy. There's nice 200.
I guess we're still monetized for now.
Yeah, we're monetized for now. So appreciate that, man. You guys supporting everything we got going on here to pay the bills.
Oh, and how about that? Speaking of everybody's dialogue, how about that Nick Aldis? A nice little, like I did pop. I'm not gonna lie. I don't normally, when I'm just by myself watching on my phone on my lunch break, I don't normally pop. But when he said, I am a big fan of your dad.
Of your dad. Yeah, that was good. Like that was all, and Triple H on the show too. So all good segments, and using Dominic's heat and giving him the rub by having him in there with that. So every segment was, not everyone, but a lot of them were designed really to how can we get max value, and I haven't seen that in a long time. So now can they do it 2, 3, 4 weeks in a row? We'll see about that. You know what I mean? Like, I'd like them to string together a hell of a run here, but I'm not sure based on what we've seen in the past that they can. Also want to say big shout out to K100 Disco and Conan and Feeney for having me on this week on their Patreon. Great conspiracy horseman talk, and they wanted to have me on earlier about this is almost not even, I mean, it's not funny because people lost their lives in an insane way, but directed energy weapons in Maui, and we're so far beyond in the news cycle with insanity on the planet, But then yesterday I tagged them on a thing like the Iron Dome in Israel is now unleashing technology that wasn't slated to be released for years. So they have it, but they're going to use it, and it wasn't supposed to be. So they even know what the future of tech is.
Much like LA Knight's push.
Yeah, right. But it's Iron Dome with, and it says directed energy weapon, like directly, because they Disco and Conan love this shit too that we do, but then they're like, well, I mean, why wouldn't they just use matches to start the fire? I'm like, they might have had multiple different things and like didn't have the vegetation trim back from the electric by design possibly, or why didn't alarms go off, or why is it right over the area that wants to be bought, and all these types of things. But then there's been proof of directed energy weapons. 5G is a directed energy weapon, or was originally, for crowd control to use that. And then now here on the front page, 3 days after we talked about it, they're like, well, I don't know, too much. I was like, oh, well, here it is, boys. So I don't try and chastise any legends who are giving me the rub. At the same time, they respect my opinion, and that's why they had me on. But great feedback. Always a good time with them, and I think Feeney will probably come over here soon and maybe we'll shoot for next Monday for a 3-man booth from the Monday Locker Room. I'm not sure what his mornings look like, but definitely would like to repay the favor and always have a good time talking to Joe, one of the great super producers out there, who's bringing you guys all the clips, everything that him and what's the Scottish, Husey, right? Like he helps with their YouTube too, so all those guys working their ass off to put out of context clips out there so I can look like an asshole talking about the wrong thing.
One of these days, he's gonna get those YouTube subscribers up, and he's gonna get Conan to make that mini cameo.
He's gonna on
one
what
day.
Is it? Suck My Flow or whatever the show is there.
Yeah, he probably won't be on that, but probably be on Husey Hello.
Oh, okay.
But yeah.
Yalla, man. But a good time making the rounds, and then even tomorrow I'm doing a show with youngster. I looked the kid up, and he was sitting in a professional sound booth at a radio station. So I don't want to say he's a kid who, I don't know where he is, but he just reached out, and I usually don't have much time to do anything else these days, but made a window for him to do an interview with somebody I'm not really familiar with, because that stuff has been paid forward to me. I don't put myself on the level of a billionaire eccentric like John McAfee, but when I got that interview, I was pumped, you know what I mean? And that made me feel like I could get another one. So I like to try and whenever I can pay that forward a little bit. So looking forward to doing some off stuff this week, but it'll all be posted in the Hameen Media discussion. So
do you know who that guy is, or would you rather not say yet?
Do I know who he is?
Well, I mean the name, perhaps.
Yeah, let me look up. I mean the name of the show, I'm not 100% sure on. Stanley Carr is the dude's name. So, but I think he's out of Kentucky in Louisville area. So, but I'm not sure what radio station or what have you he's with. But also big shout to Kaz with just another awesome weekend of HMG clips getting shared and doing big numbers, especially when it comes to the OVW stuff. Had a hell of a fun time watching Haley J and her mom, Hollywood Haley J, on with Russo and Jeff and Al, and just Russo and Al going back and forth with the way they are, man. From old school Odd Couple banter is excellent. I mean, so worth the watch, not just to support OVW, but great stuff. And Mahabali Shira sharing some stuff, and Mr. Pectacular. I think both those guys will be coming to that show soon. And also even saw I forget what he goes on. I call him, his name's Frank Tesh, I believe. So Stu Jamal. But in the chat, who is always an HMG faithful. He was at Comic-Con with Al and Danny Basham, and wearing the Ben Frackin' Hameen shirt, getting all kinds of heat over there. So I saw everything this weekend. Appreciate you guys with all the interactivity, all the retweets, all the shares, and numbers just keep going up and up when it comes to that engagement. And that's all because of the Haminians out there hooking it up, man. And I appreciate every one of you guys and all the weekend hosts and everybody getting together as well. And the Wednesday locker room, let's give them a shout, man. Absolutely. They're still back. Keeping it going. They're back. Strangler Striz is doing his thing with get your shouts in. So follow at Strangler Steve, and he's always got a call to action for your favorite whatever opinion polls and respond with a picture or GIF and get yourself a shout out on the Wednesday locker room with Billy Ray Valentine, Colin Wysong, and Strangler Steve King. So, yeah, man, that's how we're kicking it off this week. I mean, I've tried not to get too war torn, you know, with what's going on with Israel and Hamas and Hezbollah, and you know, more and more amping up as the world turns. I spread like germs, you know. So you ready for headlines?
Oh, I'm ready.
Okay. Well, let's talk about the big one, you know what I mean, right out of the gates. More details on why Vince McMahon backed away from WWE Creative, reportedly revealed. Roles of VCAM and Triple Game in the creative department appear to have changed, while the latter has been in charge of these duties for quite some time. McMahon's known for having a very hands-on approach. Oh, get me an NDA. When it comes to the company's television product, however, a report for Sports Illustrated states that Levesque is in charge of the WWE merging with UFC to form the TKO Holdings group, the completion of the Endeavor sale. According to the report, Ari Emanuel, the CEO of Endeavor, is behind the change and believes that everyone in the company should focus on the jobs they've been assigned. I'm the executive titty toucher. No, McMahon is currently on executive chairman, as executive chairman. His main focus is now oversee the media rights negotiations. As WWE's chief content officer, however, it's Levesque's role to spearhead the creative direction of Raw and SmackDown. What's more, McMahon is said to have an ironclad contract that protects him financially. However, there doesn't appear to be any clauses in that agreement that give him license to run the company as however he sees fit. Emmanuel has the final say over all matters. Previously, it was reported that McMahon was involved in WWE Creative prior to his spinal injury, which led to him making several changes to the shows. That being said, it's believed that he stepped away from the role willingly to allow Triple H to steer the ship in that department. As of this writing, McMahon is under investigation by the federal government, presumably in regard to the hush money payments he made to several women in the past. The outcome of that case remains to be seen. I don't understand why the government would be involved with hush money payments. I'm sure there's some legality of the funds that it came from that they think there's gotcha. I think there's something bigger he's being investigated for, and that the sheets got this wrong, whether it's old SEC stock cash-ins or the fact that he's getting 9.3 billion. They're going to look for any way possible to get theirs, you know, 300 million or whatever they want, you know. I think there's something, or they're trying to zap the war chest of Donald Trump, because McMahon would back him with $9.3 billion. Nobody can compete with that kind of money to buy an election right now, except for, you know, a foreign state, I guess, or blackmail could get it done. So really, this is allegedly Ari, but at the end of the day, is this Triple H and Tony Khan getting to Ari and being like, we got skeletons in the closet, put us in charge before they tear all this down. And we've seen TKO stock since it opened, I believe around 89. Yesterday it was at its lowest at $77. And they cited the PFL, Professional Fight League, being announced for Saudi. But then I've also heard that UFC's going to Saudi. So some strange stuff where back in the past, it was alleged that Ari didn't want to do business with the Saudis, you know, and that takes it to the Israel, you know, Hamas shit right there, when it's Arab-Jew conflict. And at the same time, Bin Salman trying to put this 2040 plan together for a new world order of his own. Will he bring in UFC to smooth that over? Or right now, that could be a hot political move for him to do that. And for him to not bring them over also is a hot political move. So you're kind of damned if you do or if you don't at this point. But I think it's a good move, because that's what's going to unify people. If we're all pissed off, then let's do a whole UFC Jews versus Arabs pay-per-view, Muslims versus Jews pay-per-view, right? Like, let's get it out. If we're going to have this level of, you know, the Coliseum in modern day, and you don't want to do it for whatever money reason, that's where wrestling and UFC can kind of heal the world. And I've said this, there's 4 things that go across all boundaries: hip hop, wrestling, weed, and porn. And fucking you bring those two, every corner of the earth, men are going to be men 18 to 49, and they're going to be into it, man. And then we find common ground, and hopefully we can turn down some of the violence that's in the streets, or fucking raining down from directed energy weapons and missile domes and all that shit, right? It's a strange place for them to be in right now, but it seems like Ari is the one. But would he know enough to fucking sideline McMahon like that, to like, after putting him over with Flywheel and Synergy, and fucking now you got Game and Khan, and Khan's on the board. Game's not even. I don't think Triple H is even on the board of directors, right? So maybe he's getting worked, and I don't think Ari Emanuel's stupid by any means. But he's also now shoulder to shoulder with the Iceman and the Game. That's an interesting spot to be in.
Yeah. Well, first thing, I just have to laugh when I hear somebody's article, the phrase ironclad when referring to a contract, because that's definitely like McMahon language. Like for all the people that have listened throughout the years and hear, phrases like, what's the one that they always say on commentary, medical facility, or
this is, would you think it was an unsanctioned contract?
Unsanctioned ironclad. Like these are, every time you hear these words, you just roll your eyes like, that's a Vince McMahon thing. Yeah. So like either the person writing this is mocking him.
Do you think Vince is stooging to the sheets? Like Vince wrote this whole thing?
Yeah, he wants to. Yeah, he wanted to make sure everyone knows his contract is ironclad. Make sure they use that word. So that's just funny right there.
That's great.
But as far as the other thing, I mean, it wouldn't take much for Ari Emanuel. Let's say Ari's completely divorced of anything to do with wrestling or whatever, and he's just concentrating on his business and everything. The amount of time he's spent probably personally with Vince since the merger, based on just the few public appearances that we as the public have seen of Vince McMahon, is enough for him to know that this man is unfit for anything and just needs to be sidelined. He doesn't need Nick Khan or Triple H, who's just a fucking wrestler at the end of the day. I'm not saying he's not a smart one, and I'm not saying he didn't do what he needed to do to cement his place in history, but at the end of the day, he's a fucking wrestler. So
yeah, but really to go from like that's not a small point to gloss over. You went from your dad taking you to arenas to go see WWF shows, to Killer Kowalski trained, to work in the shit route of the indies through WCW, through your first shit gimmick, only to politic up to fucking the top guys, use all that to get to be the fucking main event of all time, hook up with the boss's daughter behind your girlfriend's back, and then fucking parlay that into a marriage into top guy. I don't think there's ever been anybody even close from that. Like, started like everybody from the bottom, now we hear like that's pretty much the greatest ascension of all time, right?
Well, Ben, he's only got one daughter, so
right.
But yeah, I'm not to minimize all that, but I'm just saying, when you put your mind to it, you can accomplish anything, even if you are just a wrestler. So, big deal for him, but he's not even necessary in all this. Ari wouldn't need to be coached up by Triple H and Nick and anybody else to see that this guy just needs to, like, as you would, I believe it's your phrase, is to, go in a corner and eat your pudding or whatever it was that you say. Like this is what we're seeing. We're seeing, go eat your fucking pudding in real time here. And it may be a somewhat ignominious end to such a influential cultural figure.
Write that down, ignoramus, whatever he said. I don't know.
Yeah, whatever he said. Yeah, don't worry, no one in that writer's room could spell it. So basically, yeah, I think that's basically what we're seeing. It doesn't take a genius, doesn't take a rocket scientist, doesn't take an Iron Dome scientist or whatever. Just you can see that this guy is like, he's lost it. He's time to put him out to pasture. If he refuses to leave, we will remove him.
Yeah.
I think it's as simple as that. Now the specifics of it and who's going about it, how, we don't know, but I think in general, if you take the bird's eye view of the situation and just look at the things that we've seen with our own eyes, it's like, yeah, this guy's done. He needs to be out of the public. He needs to be as far removed from everything as possible, and at least preserve whatever's left of his dignity. Not that he deserves it, but that's just their thinking. They're trying to protect him.
Ari needs to have some consultants around him too to smarten him up of who he's really dealing with on either side of him, but also to look into the dark side of the crystal ball, because be careful what you wish for. Being head of creative, sure, you might have less restriction and more power now without checks and balances, but that can lead to stress, sleepless nights. And this guy's already had heart problems and taken plenty of climate change to make his organs bigger, and what if something, let's hope not, but 2 to 3 years, a major heart attack, what have you, right? And he's knocked out of the game, then you're left with a choice of like, all right, Steph and Shane, and do I want to keep the McMahon name, or now I've marginalized everybody. We have this property and we're taking over because we've learned the business in that amount of time. We feel confident. And then that's where he puts in Sean or somebody that, brings back Taker, or even Stone, somebody who would want to captain that ship that's going to be the right person for PR looks to get people to tune in under a new regime. Like, that's highly possible and probable within the next 3 years. So even things that are happening now could result in a complete wipe of the McMahon hold on it. Because even if, let's say, that something did happen to Triple H where he has to step down for health reasons in the next 3 years, you're going to be at that crossroads of like, is it ours now, or do we keep riding the McMahon name and bring in Steph and Shane? Because then you're going to deal with the same old school fucking, not that you're not going to have to, but you're going to deal with a higher level of having a Carney to get your business done.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look, at the end of the day, he's head of creative. That can be anybody that has been people. It's not really necessary for him to do that. One good thing in Triple H's favor is that, despite, all the extracurricular things that he's done with his body, most of those have not been, like, he's stayed pretty drug and alcohol free. So like, he doesn't have that cocktail. A lot of the guys that have ended up, woke up dead in a hotel room over the years, they were in that combination of one of the 4, steroids, booze, pills, and coke. And Triple H doesn't really do the other 3. So as
Breakfast
long as
of champions, pal. Breakfast of champions.
So he can probably extend his reign as King of Kings for a little bit longer, just because of that, hopefully. But again, it's just creative. The most important thing for head of creative, as opposed to like a Vince McMahon, is the morale of the overall talent. Sure, the show could be shitty and boring, but as long as they're happy, like, we can always fix that, the boring part. But when everybody's miserable, like, even when the creative's good, sometimes it can be sabotaged if nobody wants to play ball. So it's good to have people feeling better on a day-to-day basis to show up for work. Yeah. And then we can address some of the areas in which, and maybe this SmackDown is an indication of it. We just need to get.
That's what I was thinking too. Vat.
Instead of having a tug of war, even if Triple H puts out a shitty show, a shitty, boring show, for example, I'm not saying he is, but just follow my example. So he puts out a shitty show. As long as it's consistently shitty, that's better than having this kind of shitty show that's shitty for these reasons and this kind of shitty show that's shitty for these reasons. It's still shitty, but at least there's consistency that you can build upon, right? And it won't be so jarring when you go back and forth to like goofy toilet humor than to try to have like snarky pop culture references and then back to toilet humor and outdated references and things.
Back to 1950s cowboy movies and shit. You're like, what the fuck, bro? Are you
right? And he probably didn't even watch those. He probably just heard of them and tried to assume what they were about, right? Like, Vince McMahon doesn't have time for watching movies. So He had to have Scarface explain to him, for fuck's sake. What the fuck does he know about anything?
Points.
So
Let me put this one by you, because you are our veteran NXT reviewer as well as Impact and seemingly anywhere needed on the front lines here at HFG. But former WWE stars say they are sick of reading the same old boring scripts that go absolutely nowhere. The contracts WWE tag team, the grizzled young veterans Zach Gibson and James Drake, have expired and they're now free agents. The duo published a promo video to social media and declared that they are proud professional wrestlers. In the video, Drake stated, you've got soulless wrestlers with heartless gimmicks, and then you've got the death of creativity. We took a long look around us and we said to ourselves, if this is the big life, then we're not looking to live it. We're sick of taking the safe option. We're sick of reading the same old boring scripts that go absolutely nowhere. So I'm not too familiar with the grizzled young vets, except for seeing a couple matches, and they're no longer there. But kind of a shoot bang bang on kind of being handed the same old shit and then going, well, creative has nothing for you. And maybe it's by design to test you, or making chicken salad out of chicken shit, or it's really that it's the same old wash, rinse, repeat, paint by numbers shit with nobody really thinking how to punch stuff up to a higher level, and these guys are looking to do that now. That being said, good luck finding a place to do that, because I don't see any other wrestling company doing high level stuff that's really getting anybody over, that's standing out. So that could be just the work for the promo, or it could be, some truth in there as well. But to me, if you're at NXT, you probably will never have more freedom to politic and pitch your own business and put your own spin on things and get something over, or go into business for yourself. And then they're like, well, that's not what we did, what we wanted you to do. I mean, stick close to it, but put your own spin on it. And then you can show how it can get over and take something stale and make it fresh to show, don't tell. But to walk away from NXT hoping that you're going to have carte blanche creative freedom, unless you're really working with me at Immortal and maybe a couple other top indie promoters, you're not going to have that level of freedom or viewership. That's the thing. Who's going to see your shit?
So we could probably do a whole show on this. So I'll try to just keep it brief with the history of these guys real quick. I'll give you a sort of a rundown. They were there, what they were called James Drake and Zach Gibson, at the launch of NXT UK, however many years ago that was. Okay, they were two singles guys. They came over with the sort of, they were, I think they were a little bit ahead of when they closed NXT UK down and eventually just sort of merged and sent a bunch of Europeans over to Florida.
Well, wasn't that was mainly to kind of sucker punch World of Sport, right? Because they were going to start up as a national.
Supposedly, that was the narrative. And so whether that was true or not, eventually it didn't work out. So they just decided, all right, we're shuttering this. These guys came over. They became they were a tag team. They were the grizzled young veterans. They were wrestlers who were wrestling. And I guess when the 2.0 thing happened, they started getting cartoony shit thrust upon them. Like for some reason they were like running around stealing people's shit, or like pulling off small time cons, like ripping off an Uber driver or something. I don't know what the fuck I really don't remember what the stupid shit was that they were told to do. And then
was it like workers going to work in real life and we're going to expose it?
Not even. It was just bad. It was just bad sketch comedy. Okay. So then, once the 2.0 thing went away, they just became part of yet one of the many other cults in wrestling, because in wrestling you always got to have a cult. So this is a case of, as you said, creative had nothing for you. This is a case of where creative has something for you every week, but it's nothing. What they have for you is nothing, but you still are getting something. It's just that there's nothing for these guys to do. Most of the time they just stand around and say one or two lines. So I think for them, what their point is they would rather just go work for some promotion and just have matches than to sit around all day, not have matches, and read their 1 or 2 lines in a pre-tape each week, because you're basically just atrophy as a performer, like a physical performer, to do bullshit creative as a verbal performer. Zach Gibson was a guy that I see money on, because he's one of the few guys that could probably get a genuine Dominic reaction where they don't have to mess with the audio and the microphones and everything like that. Like people would hate that fucking guy as a foreigner, as a guy that's a dick, as a guy that's really good enough in the ring to get himself and anybody he's with over. Yeah. The other guy, James Drake, I didn't really see anything on, no offense to the guy. So I felt he was more of an albatross, but yeah, maybe that's all. No, there's a lot of this, just happens a lot in wrestling where the people in charge don't have the vision, and they don't see the things that I see, or even you see when you look at guys and you're like, oh, you immediately, your mind goes to 10 different places when you see something with a guy. And you're not looking at what the WWE is giving them. You're looking at what they could have, or what you could give them, or the potential there. You're already seeing past the facade of where they're at in the company they're in. Yeah. And it's these guys' job to do that, to find out what is this person? Who is this person? And what can we do to monetize this person? And they're just not getting it.
No.
So,
and you're talking about creative team members, even at that level, not necessarily the guys themselves. And I agree with you fully in that, whatever, on air or in ring, my character and I am one and the same, and those lines are blurred, but my bigger talent does lie in looking at a performer and being like, you could do this, 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 and this. And when you're in the wrestling bubble, sometimes you can't see that in yourself. And I tell my students this, and I've said this a couple times this week, about how you have to be the director, the stuntman, the performer, the lighting expert, the sound engineer, the director, the producer of your own vignettes. And you're never going to have a better time to do that than putting in the extra effort at NXT, because you're not going to have that level of equipment, production, or ability to grab somebody and put them in your scene just to shoot some test footage. Like, that is showing that you are hungry to get to the main roster above all, and you're trying things to see what'll click, because if something clicked for a minute and it's not, and you're in the cult thing, you should be able to recognize that and say, I need to work on something that's going to take me to the main roster and get me there. Go ahead, Vet, please.
But you know this as well. You always run the risk, if you're not a certain person, you always run the risk of, when you have an idea and somebody giving you the old, oh, you think you're over? Like, why should I do anything extra for you? Who are you to tell me that you need to do this, or you want to do this? Yeah, I'm sure a lot of people want to do it. Take a hike. Someone else could come up and say the exact same thing. And if it's like, if Tiffany Stratton says, I have an idea, they're like, oh yes, Miss Tiffany. Yes. What is your idea? Tiffany Stratton, please bang me. And then the other guy, Zach Gibson comes up and is like, I have an idea, mate. And they're like, fuck off. It's just, I'm too busy to help you with your extra,
but that's part of the level of politics that you have to get used to be able to play and figure out how to unlock that. Right. If you don't got tits and ass and best intentions and using it, and you're going to do something, then you need to figure out how to shoot some test footage on your own, get the pebble in the pond that everybody wants to hear the rumor of a new character. Then you take it to somebody, hat in hand, please, sir, would you help me? Or be like, hey, I'd love to get your opinion and eyes on this. How can I punch this up? And leave it with space for them to add their 2 cents. You got to know how to work this game, and that's how it is. And the reality is, sure, we want to be performers, have the spotlight at the WrestleMania main event and paycheck, but the fact of the guy who might not have money on him, forgive me, like that you weren't trying to marginalize him, but he might grow to be your best producer and head of creative if you give him this opportunity to create, or he's fighting for it. And really, when you're inside the bubble as a wrestler, you're not even seeing that shit, I could have a 20-year gig here as a fucking member of creative, or as an agent down the road, because of the work I'm doing here. And maybe I wasn't meant to be the in-ring superstar. That's how I got here. But my whole life could take a different trajectory. I mean, Brad Armstrong can probably outwork everybody in the locker room, but you haven't seen Brad Armstrong on TV in 25 years, right? But he's had a goddamn job as a top guy, producer and production dude. So like there's sometimes where they're in the bubble and they can cloud their judgment fully on taking full advantage of, and then just passing the heat of like, and I'm sure they're tired of seeing some stupid same old scripts. That could be the catalyst right there. Unscripted on young vets. You know what I mean?
So we're seeing that. We're seeing that this is Joe Gacy that's got this cult gimmick, and that gimmick's already they just broke up the gimmick anyway.
Joe Gacy was terrified to face me in the Northeast.
Yes, that same Joe Gacy. He's so terrified that he broke up his entire cult and hasn't been seen since. So, and he left the Rock's. He left the Rock's daughter in the dust. Like he's so scared. Like how could you use that meal ticket and just leave that aside? But you know, I agree with everything you're saying. Of course, you got to try. I'm just trying to paint a picture because I know a lot of fans and even, you know, all the loyal HMG army, like they hear about these wrestlers and they have to think, well, they must not have tried enough. And I'm just here to say that some guys don't try. And I don't know if the Grizzly Young Veterans, how hard they tried or how hard they politicked or whatever.
It seems like
I am just saying
with FTR on the main roster.
Yeah.
Like this seems like the same, like we've heard this before, obviously.
All I am saying is there is a certain point where it doesn't matter what you do or how much you do right. If they don't fucking want to do it with you, they just won't. So sometimes it's like that. I don't know if this is one of those cases, but it does happen. So if there was ever like a can't miss talent that you're just like, God, I don't know. Look how much Cross has had to struggle, you know, like we know he's got it. So we aren't going to question anything that he's doing or trying to do.
Yeah.
But we know that somebody up there is like, and that's a reality that I think the fans just sometimes they forget because they just haven't seen that side of it personally themselves. You and I have both seen it directly, but other people
we
just
both felt it. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Great segue though, as always. The vet Cross says that he and Bray Wyatt were slated to work together at WrestleMania 39. We were supposed to work last WrestleMania 39, and no one knew that except for a collection of writers and people in the office. We were slated to do something. We would talk for hours about how we want to get into it and we want to deliver creatively for people. We thought we both needed to be. We had ideas with Alexa Bliss and Bo Dallas and Scarlett. Everything happened the way it did. He left a mark on anybody and everybody he ever met. It's just very strange the way everything played out. Beautiful and tragic. He was always an inspiration to me and showed everybody warmth. Nice sentiment from Cross on the Chris Van Vliet show. Yeah, man. Two guys with, you know, an Academy Award level eye for production and alternative views and understanding that the work can handle anything if you approach it with the right respect. And you know, still Cross has all that level of directing, and we haven't seen him or Scarlett or either of them used to full potential. And I'm sure it would have been absolutely epic, the promos and pre-tapes between Bray and Cross. Obviously Bray's not here, and I've heard they're even going to keep it going to possibly bring Bo back in and do something. So maybe there's legs there. I'm sure it would take a big roadmap and rewrite and revision of what that's going to be. Is that the way to go? Should we let Bray's creative rest in peace, or should we keep pushing it? It's an interesting choice to make, but I think Killer Cross can get over in 100 different ways. I just don't think that creative can write up to where he is. And in fact, he needs to almost take what we just talked about and be Like, look, man, I'm not trying to. How do you get carte blanche to produce everything you want to with your own director's eye, using all WWE production without having to clear it with anybody? That's the political hurdle he needs to overcome. Not an easy one to do. However, if he's Triple H's guy and game's in control, maybe that's what they need. Him and Borash sit down and then go do us thou wilt. You know what I mean? And add our 2 cents to make sure we're really making something that's high level and not a mailed in version of what could be, because then there's nothing worse and you go right stale and back to the bottom again. You know, he really has to, and even the fact that you could stooge off that this is a carry and cross production, you know, and label everything like that it's its own thing and it stands alone that way. Like that would be one of the few ways to really level it up, I guess.
Well, I think the biggest, the true, besides that hurdle that you mentioned, another, the reality is that a big hurdle that he has to face is when your creativity is not necessarily commensurate with your, with what you do in front of the live audience. Then,
all right, now I feel you're taking shots right at me, Vet.
If the shoe fits, wear it. But I'm just talking about Cross.
I know.
I'm trying to diplomatically. I'm trying to find a way to diplomatically say, and then the bell rings.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. He's
because
even though he's been in this shit, his in-ring isn't ready for WWE main event, but his character is and his look is.
Right. So if you set the this is a problem that Bray Wyatt also faced, because when you set the expectations so high and then all you can do is have a pro wrestling match to pay it off, then it eventually the fans are going to disconnect with it. Even if they like the character, they're still going to see, you know, like, well, they hyped me up and then all I got was a match. And so he's got to find a way to balance. You got to take your creativity and take it only just so far so that it doesn't, you know, your reach doesn't exceed your grasp. And then when you can get to a point, because even if he was the best worker in the world, is that as a pro wrestling worker, is that going to be up to the level of his creativity and his eye, his director's eye and his character study and all those things? Like, this is always going to outshine, because it's just two things. So you have to find a way to balance it and somehow be the guy in a professional wrestling sports setting that your character is in the vignette. You have to tone this down, you have to bring this up, and you have to do this so that the fans will buy everything that you do. Then when you get a little bit more outrageous with it, the fans already have your credibility in mind, so they can go on those little extra long reaches for you, with you.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess even in the chat room, they're, you know, talking as we were 46, we're 43 strong. Appreciate you. Mike Martin says, reality is they try to cross missing something. He and his people don't vibe with him. See, I can see where you'd have that point of view based on the C-level creative they have. I just think this guy operates at a Quentin Tarantino level. And you have to present it like that, and you have to have the other characters that can do it. And that's not wrong. Of like, and then the bell rings, and we
Quentin Tarantino. He's on a Quentin Tarantino level, yeah. And to that point of Mike's comment, he was also presented as the gimp. So fucking, you got to overcome that on top of it. Like now we you know, you have to try to erase that. This isn't the 80s, dude. This stuff lives forever now. So that will always get brought up no matter what he does. They're going to be like, hey, remember this? So
remember the stupid mask.
God damn, that's, you know, these ribs are great in the moment and they're only hurting your wallet. But sorry, go ahead.
No, I think that's what we need to condition our audience to, that it needs to be the director, Killer Cross, the director's cut, right? Because they're already what's the Woody Harrelson movie that they're kind of modeled after?
Natural Born
Killers, right? Not Bonnie and Clyde. That's all I can think of. Or how do we do Bonnie and Clyde the right way with them? You know, like there's opportunities out there to tell the Siren Song, the Succubus storyline, the Medusa storyline, the Bonnie and Clyde storyline, the you know, Mr. kill them all storyline, really, and take him to a Hollywood level based on letting them have carte blanche and get it over. And really, what they have tried to do, putting him with Drew, putting him with AJ, is the solution to. And then the bell rings, right? Because those guys can carry anybody. So, but we need to figure out how we're going to have them mix into that world and the characters we need them to be. So I hope they get it right, especially with Triple H at the helm now. Maybe he'll have a reinvention and an opportunity. I like what they did with Nakamura. So that's what gives me a little bit of hope, even though the payoffs were all completely wrong. Yeah. And Seth Rollins is called out by a WWE Hall of Famer for lack of selling broken back injured at 2023 Fastlane. Bully Ray criticized the segment for lack of Rollins' broken back injury on Raw the next night. He says, these are the things that annoy me. You lack the credibility. You killed the credibility of the match and the believability of the back injury. You killed everything Shinsuke Nakamura did do, bumps off ladders, going through tables, Falcon's arrows through tables, everything. Not even a limp. No, he came out in 6-inch stiletto platform heels and a bedazzled goddamn ski goggles and an Illuminati jacket in fucking, where were they? It wasn't Tulsa. That was this week. It was even a more bumfuck town. Omaha, Nebraska. See-through shirt. Like, you couldn't be any more out of touch. Like any dad's going, son, when you grow up, I want you to have bedazzled fucking ski goggles. Boy, make that.
It would work great if he weren't being presented as a babyface.
Yeah. Not even grabbing the shoulder. Come on. We all know WWE and Seth Rollins are smarter than that. I'm sick and tired of the lack of selling in this industry, whether it's selling in ring in the moment or selling afterwards. It's just uncalled for. This is not an old man screaming at the crowds. This is what's right. Bubba Ray Dudley, I couldn't agree more. And a couple of fans hit me up last week about the Wardlow thing. When Wardlow stomped off after his match, Bubba and I saw the same shit of something ain't right here. Like, that didn't seem part of the storyline. That seemed shooty, where they either told him to take it home or cut his time beforehand and kind of threw a little tantrum. So, veteran eye in perspective, I agree exactly what he's been saying. In fact, Seth should not have won the match before that. This was last man standing. What was the one before that was the pay-per-view? Shinsuke should have beat him there for the title. So both times after Shinsuke whispers in his ears, I know about your back, and then we work heat on the back, that's what should cause him the match and the heat for our heel, and the money is in the chase. Instead, Seth comes out, sing my song, and fucking isn't selling that at all, and then starts to do the, I'm going to have to relinquish the title promo because I got to go get back surgery or what have you. And then he goes, just kidding, I'm going to be here for a long time, everybody. So we're so bipolar with it, and it's not getting over just so he can go, but I love it when you sing my song, and jump the shark on that, instead of having real stakes built in. And Russo has said this, he'll get his ass kicked. Then we cut to the back, and it's a Becky Lynch promo after they put over that they're married. So she don't give a fuck. Is she Jada Pinkett? Are they really haven't been together for the last 6 years and they just got a kid together, but she don't give a fuck about him and lies about him all the time? And he's really a closet case. Like, what is going on with any of this? It makes no sense. And really, you did a good job with these pre-tapes, letting Shinsuke shine, doing Japanese with subtitles. He was able to get character out so much better. And it was so well done in pre-tape. And then he loses both the match when the babyface is already coming in with a broken back. So you can't beat a guy with a broken back twice. Broke back 1 and 2, like really, really bad booking choices and decisions right there.
And Seth can't beat Cody with one arm.
Yeah.
So it's like there's no
last week.
There's no everything they're doing is wrong, and this is what I mean when I say it. You just laid all that out. Seth Rollins is not a babyface. He wasn't supposed to be. The only reason they think he is because people started ironically singing his song. And then they think that turns into, oh, well, he must be a babyface then, even though it's just people having fun because the show's not entertaining, so they have to entertain themselves. Then that turns into now Seth Rollins is a babyface. Seth Rollins has been a heel ever since he started doing this stupid bullshit gimmick. Shinsuke Nakamura is not a heel. everybody wants to like Shinsuke Nakamura. There's just something about the guy that they just want to like, and they've never presented him in a way that, you know, could fully again get max value, as you say, out of this guy and his presentation. He's got such a unique presentation, unique look, unique mannerisms and charisma that just he doesn't have to speak for people to get with him or to vibe with him, as Mike said. You want to like him, and they just are like, well, he'll be a heel. You know, everyone is miscast in their roles.
Yep.
And the thing that you're talking about with Becky is that's what I'm always talking about when I say you have a chance to have a connected universe backstage where the show writes itself. Okay, now you've done this. Now the obvious thing is for Becky to now be distracted in whatever she's scheduled to do.
Right.
And now she's panicked because I've got a job to do, but my husband, and then, you know, now somebody else is barking at, you know, at my heels because I'm the champ or whatever, and they want a shot at me. So I got to deal with that. And they're like, hey, tough luck about your husband, but what about me?
Yeah, it's right in the goddamn Bruce Lee story. Like, he goes, fights the dudes, they kick him in the back, his fucking back is shot. Right, it's all right there, and then you get to see his wife Linda to nurse him back to health while they got the new baby. Like, it's all right there. And Frank Pickle Barrel asks, super supporter, appreciate the stickers earlier, buddy. But that's not the one. But he asks, would you make a talent for Cross to fight that fits the character, Ben? We're talking about him, bro. You could either align or have him fight Shinsuke Nakamura. This is right out of Kill Bill, the crazy 88. You know what I mean? Scarlett can work, and you could have, it doesn't need to be, you know, the women's hero story that Kill Bill is, but that type of level of the Yakuza, or put him on the same side and Cross as a hired assassin, and we have like a board of directors of bad guys that are cool. They're all cool, but they're fucking end bosses in a video game. You know what I mean? At every level.
You know who Cross is? Like, that I just realized as we were talking about him a few minutes ago, in like, as far as who he's supposed to be in the ring. I don't think he would probably see this for himself, but I think once I say it, I think you will definitely understand. Cross is Chong Li from Bloodsport.
Absolutely. I don't disagree.
The guy that's a stone cold killer, but just enough showmanship to, you know what I mean? Like, ice cold,
he gets
but
off
charismatic.
He gets off on the violence of it.
Right. And he's doing whatever he's been doing up to this point. It's not quite there, but that's who he needs to be when he's in the ring with somebody.
Yeah.
He needs to be that guy that's just like helpless in his arms, and he's like, you know, that is kind of, he would be good to beat Seth in the way that Nakamura should have. And then as Seth is done, he picks him up and gives him another backbreaker after his back is already broken and is fucking pumped about it, like Chong Li when he breaks the fucking guy's leg. And then out comes Becky, and Scarlett cuts her off too. You know what I mean? And they leave them both laying. So yeah, but what do we know? We're just two fucking podcasting guys.
Shut the fuck up, you idiots.
I never watched a cowboy movie from the 50s.
No. Somebody this is interesting to me. She says Lacey Evans shoots on her departure from WWE. Says, I don't think this was for me. It wasn't a bit, quote, it wasn't a bit much as far as I couldn't do it. It was a bit much as far as I don't think this was for me. I lasted 7 years in WWE. I invested and made a lot of money. I'm a business owner. I'm in investment properties. I really sunk a lot of good money into making sure I'm squared away. My priorities were my priorities in comparison to a lot of professional wrestlers are way different night and day. I think I was blessed to start with that business venture with a full-blown awesome husband and relationship. I've already had a baby. I was a business owner making 6 figures before I even joined. I took a pay cut to be able to try and use the platform to make a difference for my community. It was a lot in that regard because my priorities and idea in life was not running on red carpets and sniffing people's asses for opportunities. I'm not cut out for that, unfortunately.
The reason I laugh so hard is because that's basically like the way she lays that out is basically, besides the whole money and the husband thing, that basically describes me, why I'm sitting here right now. Like, you could have just replaced everything she said with me saying it, because
well,
I was just like, yep, I don't think this is for me. See ya.
I
So
think you'd be a wonderful Southern belle, though.
I could probably pull it off.
Uh,
But she was, and it, and if they had just stuck with that
yeah, they
and
just
gave
did. They,
that the
they,
full
Mhm.
commitment and been like, yep, this is it. This is the Rosie the Riveter. She does the woman's right, and she's a heel, and that's it. And we do that for however many years, and then she can retire.
Yeah.
It's all
I'm glad they didn't go all the way with it with the Southern Belle vet, because they probably would have put Big E in overalls and had him as a farmhand or something and done some bullshit that way, right? But I do agree completely with the women's right and the Rosie the Riveter and the Me Too movement. We missed on all that. And I've said this, and maybe I'll even email it to her, because I'd hate to see her get future endeavored. She's been working hard outside of the ring to improve her life, and that's what I like about this story of what she's really saying. Lacey Evans is saying, I'm not in the bubble, I'm a businesswoman, I was using this as and that's what Stevie and I have said 100 times. So I appreciate that, but then at the same time, here, look at my nipples on OnlyFans. Oh, okay. Does that the community help you're trying to improve? I don't know, but we need money, and we're capitalizing, and we're all carny workers. But I think Nikki Cross, with what she has in her new master's degrees in history and women's history, along with the Rosie the Riveter, they could have really been an empowered women's suffrage, like Susan B. Anthony. What would they look like if those women were in the ring? You know what I mean? And what would they have to say in speaking out in Me Too movement? And even you could have mixed in or made the opposition Chelsea Green with the Karen. We have highly educated women fighting for one thing, and we have other women undermining the credibility of what we do, in a strong sisterhood. So we're not taking what is really our strengths of what's inside us and capitalizing on that to make what most people say, no one can write strong female characters. Well, they had the man, put the man in there. Can you imagine that? And we could even tell a story that's as old as time that really doesn't get told in WWE, the Lysistrata, which is the men go off to war so much and leave the women alone at home with the kids, and they all get pissed off with having to do all the men's stuff while they go fight to flare their egos. When the men come back from war, the city gates are closed and nobody's getting any pussy. All the women are on strike, and they hold the men up, and now all the men that were fighting are unified in a battle of the sexes, and we've got enough women in the locker room that are in relationships that everybody knows about, that even if they're at odds, when it comes to whatever the little sub storyline is, the unification of the women could override that and could be led by a character like a Lacey Evans, like a Nikki Cross. But again, what the fuck do we know? I'm not playing at a high level, I guess.
No, and instead we'll just keep Nikki Cross off of TV, and then she'll just show up one week to do a job, and then she'll be gone again. And because that's the best way to get somebody that's making six figures.
Yeah, man.
For a return on your investment. Yeah.
Right. And we're not playing to their strengths. Then boy, how much would those women believe those promos if you let them write them? She's got a goddamn master's degree in it. What are you going to tell her about it? Like, let her fill in the blanks. Just make a Mad Libs version of the promo and let her punch up however she wants to.
Yeah, maybe they're just afraid that she'll sound like Shrek when she's saying it.
it's fine. But I would love to see a battle of the sexes that way. It's just, how do you pay that off? Either everybody gets laid or they fist fight. So
that's it.
Sounds like a hell of a pay-per-view to me, pal. I'm in.
Yeah.
Trish Stratus comments on what was the best match of her career in her opinion. She would say Mickie James and her WrestleMania 22. The storylines are one of those things with the storylines, especially for women, and just storylines in general in wrestling. They just don't go on and on. They just kind of start and stop and forget. Mickie and I are really proud of that. We had the storyline. We used the hashtag longest rivalry ever, but I think maybe Becky Lynch might have that now, actually. That was a great match, no doubt. But I got to say, I think her cage match was of this year probably was the most impressive match, not just because, she's a returning legend. No, dude, that match was fucking great. I'm glad, the Mickey one sticks out in her mind and it is wrestling legend and lore. But dude, I put the one she just had over as her best match of all time.
Yeah, I agree. I like that cage match. I'm sure though at the time for Trish, it was a thing of, well, here's my chance to make somebody. Now you think of, somebody that was a fitness model, probably never thought they were going to get into wrestling or whatever, get brought into wrestling, barks like a dog, blah, 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 all this other stuff. God knows what kind of NDA she had to sign. But eventually she got to the point where even she was trusted to make somebody, Mickey James, who had already been a worker, and it's surely could, no disrespect, work circles around Trish, even at that time. But that being in that position to do that with her status, or her stratus.
Is that a boy? Good group mind. Good group mind.
So that was probably a huge deal, a big WrestleMania featured match. Also, Mickey grabbed her by the pussy, so she got the Donald Trump action in there. That's been deleted off of all your versions that you'll see now on Peacock, so don't go looking for it, but it did happen. We were there. So yeah, that was, I can see why she holds that match in high regard because of her role and responsibility in it.
Yeah, to carry it off, absolutely, for sure. But man, they did put on a hell of a show there this year. Thunder Rosa comments on Jade Cargill making the jump to AEW WWE. Says, you have to give your friends when you have your friends, just promote your friends and be happy for what's happening to them. I want to give a shout out to Jade Cargill. She looks like $1 million again. She's all in my feed, up in my feed. She's doing something else, and it's like, I mean, I don't know, man. Like, if I go to somewhere else, I want to be treated like that, like a superstar. So it's really cool to see that. My blessings to her, and can't wait to see her in the ring. I can't wait to see what they have in store for her, man. That seems a little like, hey, I'm ready to go, right?
Too long, yeah, the too long didn't read version is good idea.
Yeah, I mean,
think I'll do that.
I mean, kind of rough year PR wise and backstage for the AEW women's division with the back for all divisions with Punk and the Bucks and all those guys, I guess. But like, word that she took liberties and then didn't wait around and ran and hid in a locker room afterwards instead of saying sorry or thank you for the match. And then she's injured, but it's not that injury, it's a different one, or is it compounding, or is she making shit up? Like, a lot of these rumors are flying around. Here's the truth. Everybody's working injured all the time. Everything hurts all the time. So when it comes to like making up injuries, that's the last thing any wrestler needs to do. But she hasn't been back in AEW. There's definitely money on her, like Rey Mysterio toy money. You know what I mean? With the half makeup, Dia de los Muertos, and all that stuff, especially with immigration as a hot button and being bilingual to be able to do that. And LWO, wouldn't she be a perfect fit to come in and try and take Zelina Vega's spot? And, you can spin Vega out as a baby face and we can have Chancla on a pole match or whatever they want to do. There's definitely WWE space for her, I think, to make money and get over, because she is one of the better wrestlers that they had in AEW that would carry girls who are too green to better matches. She runs Mission Pro, so she knows promotion as well, right? And I don't know, man. Like, if the diva drama can be left behind, and like I'm sure they'd give her a look. But at the same time, is that rumors that Khan could put out there too damaging, or does WWE really want to stick it to them and start taking all their top women? They bring Jade, they get her. Saraya would jump back in a minute. Toni Storm with the new character definitely could. Taya Valkyrie has all the skills to come back and do what they need to. And Serena could come back at any time and take over as coach or be on camera if they needed. So there's moves being made here to really death by 1,000 cuts on Tony Khan if they wanted to.
I think so. And that's one thing that they do like to do. They would almost rather spite someone else than to just do that with their own talent that they already have and have been paying for years. So if that's what it takes, then, let's go with that. But Thunder Rosa is definitely marketable. She's like, she's, despite the fact that it seems like she's been around forever, she really hasn't. She's pretty relatively inexperienced in the business when she got a national platform for the first time, so she's been finding out a lot of stuff all at once, in the past 3 years. And some of it may have just been a little bit much than what she was prepared for at the time. Hopefully she can come out on the other side of that and make the money that she should make, because, like you said, and like I thought, the WWE marketing machine with all the merchandising they could do.
Yeah.
Come on. If nothing else, who gives a shit about anything else? Who gives a shit if she's the shits? Who gives a shit if she has a bad attitude? Make some fucking action figures and sell the makeup kit and the all the capes and just
half mask.
It's all right there.
Just half mask. You charge the same price, half the mask. Right?
That's exactly it. Save on materials. You just doubled your profitability.
Yeah, dude. What do I know?
What do we know?
But yeah, I could definitely see a place, because she knew how to market herself. Now somebody's got to crack whip and make sure the rest of it is you step in line or whatever. But that was a good, like, hey, you go get it, girl. Would love to be treated like that, as opposed to the cattiness of the women's locker room there with Britt Baker going back and forth over Thunder Rosa, and then Tony Storm cutting the promo on them when they were together as the Mean Girls about being interim champion and all that kind of shit, man. So, some things, the more things change, the more they stay the same. After this week's phony ass boxing match, Logan Paul defeated Dylan Danis. Get me anus, Danis, and a Danish.
Did you lose any money on that one? Or?
No, I didn't. Boxing fight Saturday with a fake brawl at the end. Then Logan Paul called out Rey Mysterio for a U.S. title match. I'm sure that'll happen at Crown Jewel, because nothing says United States pride more than going to Saudi Arabia.
That's right. Couldn't do it any other way.
Yeah, man. So big phony ass fucking shit. And you hear the crowd kind of laugh when he calls out Ray. He's like, oh, we just watched a boxing match that we don't want to admit was phony, but now you're going to do phony stuff and haha on you. Like, every one of these fucking Paul fights is the total work. And when you got a bench clearing brawl at the end to make your ESPN sports highlight more than anything that happened in the fight, we know it's fucking all bullshit. Does that mean Logan Paul doesn't train his ass off? No, he absolutely does. And like, to watch those guys put the 10,000 hours in private boxing lessons just to go from some Hollywood dicks trying to do shock video, or the bullshit he did from the suicide forest in Japan to try and get clicks and got him on the map. Well, look where he's parlayed that into. And that's your Illuminati 101 lesson for the day. Let's see here. Triple H is in full control, if I didn't mention that. Yeah. The big fucking to-do, I guess, is Tony Khan selling for a lot of Twitter marks with 25 followers about, just getting after him after big fight Tuesday, and they ended up losing 900,000 to 600,000, so 33% down under WWE. And just being the head of the company, and what is your locker room think of that? This says how people in the wrestling industry are said to be reacting to Tony Khan's social media activity. Alvarez said, I've heard Tony needs to get off his phone and stop tweeting. I heard that from? Well, not WWE. Well, yeah, from WWE too, but also from AEW. They are saying, will someone get this guy's phone from him? And then Tricky Nick Hausman of House of Wrestling says, one source in WWE I spoke with described him as petulant, while others felt it was just a bad look. One source from CM Punk's camp responded by saying, this is the kind of stuff that makes him happy to be away from the company. But the Jaguars fucking smoked their competition, so Tony's up. It is embarrassingly bad. It's very Herb Abrams feel to it, you know, and Russo cut a big promo for him, even though it's half entertainment and you know, to make a rib of some things, but you got to put it down. The spotlight's constantly on you. And that is a very millennial helicopter parent child kind of thing to be, you know, when you might have had this as your vanity project and you want to hang out with wrestlers and be part of the biz. Well, you got to really understand the biz, which means no sell everything. No sell. You cannot give these people inside the business even let you see you sweat one time or make an ass of yourself. You're should be putting all your faith in your talent to carry that ball, because you're not a trained performer. You're not the one that should be out there scrumming it up and giving people hugs. This is a man's testosterone sport of kick the shit out of somebody and leave them laying in their own fucking blood, shit, and piss and stand over them triumphant. It turned into a meet and greet where the boss gets to meet his favorite stars who are working everybody, and that's not a good look. And then to now be going in DMs of fans with 26 followers, and that's not going to get screenshot. This to me looks like chemical imbalance, and you need a handler, a big time handler. The phone addiction is way out of control. The inability to take constructive criticism is a huge problem. And even surrounding yourself with people who you claim to respect as supreme legends in this game and not deferring to them and just being like, I'm hands off, you handle it, please just run it by me. And I just want to be in the loop, not even give it the okay. I just want to be in the loop. You know, that's what really needs to happen, because right now, major embarrassment. And then once you go to the Twitterverse with Edge in the ring, and all there is 6 rows deep opposite hard cam side, and the entire arena is Hameen tarped off. You got no room to be talking to anybody. And you shouldn't even be lowering yourself. You are a TV character. The TV character of Tony Soprano would never be going back and forth on Twitter with a fan who's watching, questioning things. It really is not a good look at all. And it's embarrassing, especially when you have a locker room full of people who practice the no-sell lifestyle. Sure, you can see it. Sure, it can affect you, but you have to be able to take that in stride with a smile and be like, brush your shoulders off, right? And fucking keep going step by step. And also even be humble enough to go, you know what? This is about wrestling, and I feel like I'm too in the forefront of this. I'm personally taking a step back. I've got so much going on with my awesome Jacksonville Jaguars, and I trust my staff here. You can do it in a very babyface way, but we need to no more Tony Twitter thumbs, no more Don Stevens, and no more poking the bear of Triple H with bald asshole or NDA shots at Vince. I don't mind that Paul Heyman shit, our big boys kick ass or whatever, or taking those shots. Do it in the ring on the TV show, not in the fucking gimmick troll Twitterverse where you're selling for stuff like that. If you're going to make those moves, they need to be calculated and strong, not spur of the moment stupid gifts to poke the bear that way, because now all they're going to do is stack shows against you to cut throats, and they're going to use all the guys that want to jump back over, like an FTR, probably like an Edge and Christian, probably like a Tony Storm, whoever, Aleister Black, whose wife's there. The Stooge pipeline is way open. You're not going to have any secrets, war game secrets. They're going to see you coming a mile away. You know, so the best thing you can do is completely step back and let wrestlers fight that fight for you to try and stay afloat, because there's just too much negative PR stuff that's going to sweep the leg, Johnny, on everybody.
Deja vu, deja vu, deja vu. I feel like I've heard all these things before. I feel like people have been telling Tony to put his phone down for 4 years. I feel like people have been lecturing him on how to run a company and would Vince McMahon ever do this and you got to deal with this. And at this point, I just don't think it's ever really going to change. So
I just don't want to see. I mean, we're seeing dying days in numbers with this company 200 300,000 draw on Friday, Saturday because of bad placement. Video game definitely didn't make money and never will. And now lost some of your top talent and you're trying to fill in with high price guys. Feels like WCW, death of WCW 2.0. And this is what we're doing is going back and forth with fans, man. Like I want this not just to be a success, but dude, that's cutting paydays in half in this industry. Like people are making money and setting a standard now, and people want to Schadenfreude and take pleasure in others' miseries and being like, they're going to go out of business. Ha ha, I fucking told you. Dude, that's 200, 150, 200 people who now are out on the street in this biz and are competing for a WWE spot or taking indie paydays that other brothers and sisters could get. And now we have less of a chance to really accomplish our dream of making it to a TV show. So the last thing I really want to do is see them go out of business. I want to see them right the ship and keep chugging along. Not like I want to see them kick the shit out of WWE. I just want viable companies that are paying people.
Well, I guess my bigger point is really just that whatever he tweets won't affect that much. I mean, I don't know if anybody's not going to buy a ticket because Tony tweeted something. I think they're not going to buy a ticket because they don't care. Or they
guys are going to jump to WWE that much quicker and not show him loyalty because of that.
I know, but he's been like this, and we just keep seeing people jump over there. Like Edge just came over there.
But isn't that part of the dying days of WCW where Vince was like, "Yeah, I can't pay you that. Go eat up some of their budget. $7 million. Well, fuck, I was gonna give you 2. Go get your money." Like you're sending them there to punch holes.
Yeah, but he also could have just retired. He didn't have to do this. He didn't have to be a part of this. People still are doing this, so it's going to go on as long as I guess he wants to go on. If he ever gets bored with it, then the company will fold. If not, he'll just be playing to an empty house. As long as he can afford the rent on the buildings.
Rumor was that Warner Brothers Discovery is going to sell out to the cock Universal in the next 2 years. Now, won't that be interesting? Of like trying to go back and forth at each other, but you're both under the same NBC Universal umbrella.
No, it won't be interesting. It'll be just as boring as every other fucking thing that happens in the wrestling business. I will say this because everything you said about Tony, I agree. Everything everybody says, I agree. They give him too much of a hard time, and this is where my point is the only thing sadder than Tony Khan's tweets is people reporting on and discussing Tony Khan's tweets. I don't follow Tony Khan. The only reason I hear about this kind of stuff is because of all of you guys and all of this industry and the way they are with their I'm just going to listen to a podcast and clip out of context so I can write a news story on my website. Yeah. Like that is what WrestleLink has become, or WrestleZone, or any of these other. It's now become, here's what Arn Anderson said on a podcast. That's now a headline.
I'll shoot you, motherfucker.
Right. And so look what Tony Khan tweeted. That's a headline. I have to learn about this shit from you guys. I have to learn about this shit from you quote tweeting him, responding to him, just making cryptic comments about him. Like the people in my timeline that are from either HMG or people that have followed me from here that are whatever, or anybody else that I used to follow that wants to have a comment about it. That's how I have to hear about this shit. I'm trying to stay out of it, and I have to keep hearing about it. Like, you're talking about him not having a life. He's got a life. He's got so much downtime that he's got to be in jets and limousines and other things to get from place to place. And what is he going to do while he's waiting to go where he needs to go? He's going to get on Twitter and he's going to do the shit that he does.
Yeah.
So that's why he's doing it. That's why he's doing it. But why are you all doing it? Why are you all following Tony Khan and retweeting him? What's that? Oh, it looks like a. Who's he pointing to? Who's he pointing to?
It was yesterday at the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Hey,
Coach.
yeah, he's not tweeting right then.
I just like hungover con. Yeah, guys, good win.
It's the lights are real bright in there. So basically, that's what I'm saying. If you guys would just cool out and stop caring, then I could not have to hear about it and talk about it too.
The vet needs you guys. He needs your help. Call to action on that one.
Yes.
I mean, there was so many of them over the weekend. It just was. That's gonna be a morale killer in the locker room. People just roll the eyes, and on we go. But
that morale is dead. It's been kicked and beaten, and it's a horse, and it's dead. The flies are buzzing. It's dead. There's no.
Send it to the glue factory. Man. That was pretty much all the big ones. Oh, here's the last one. But I don't believe it. I think it's all disinformation. People, the sheets are saying that CM Punk talks with WWE are dead right now, but that could still change. That they don't want him back. I think they're just trying to put cold water on it. So when he shows up in Chicago at Survivor Series, it seems like a big surprise where people didn't think he was there. You know what I mean? So
imagine they do Survivor Series and he just doesn't show up.
Yeah.
How bad is that going to be for you guys? Even if you only bring him in, even if the only way you bring him in is to be like, hey, look who's here sitting in the crowd, that could, maybe stave off a potential riot. But like with everybody just expecting them to do it and then they don't do it, does that seem like WWE right now? It kind of seems like they're going in a direction where they want to just like really twist the knife at every opportunity. So they might just do it again to spite themselves.
It could be. We'll see which way, if that old school heat gets in the way versus look at this giant fucking nuke we could touch off. Shouldn't we do it? Yeah. Right.
That really plus the fact that don't forget, short memories, but don't forget he was already backstage when he was working for AEW and he said hi to Triple H, and I guess they talked about a couple things, and he smoothed things over with The Miz, and it was Vince that kicked him out, but I guess Vince isn't in control of much anymore, so.
All great points from the vet here, you guys, and that's what the Monday Locker Room is all about, dude. I feel like that. I smell a work in that story where I saw that, like a bunch of it come out. They said, no, the talks are off. Yeah, okay. Sure they are, pal. But the talk was on and hot here today, man, with about 50 in the chat room here live. Ben Hameen YouTube channel, twitch.tv/Hameen Media. Appreciate you guys hanging out with us, kicking your Monday morning off, and appreciate the vet for co-hosting as always, man. Even though I sent him link last minute to do the run-in early on the east side here in the missile silo. Vet, you got Impact Attack tonight, right? With Let's Go Brandon. That's what's going down tonight on HMG.
Tonight, and you guys are gonna want to be there because I've got some fun stuff to say about that show. So even if you don't check out Impact normally, we run a pretty tight ship and try to get in and out, so be entertaining on the way. So we've got that.
That'll be at Hameen Media Group on YouTube if you want to watch live for free, or please subscribe, channelattitude.com,
yes.
$5 a month. I mean,
yes, then you can get all the Impact Attacks I've ever done. Right there for your wrestling dollar. And then you were talking about how about the wrestlers and Al Snow and Vince and everything. And if you check out Wrestling with Rip Rogers, you'll be able to see an interview with Hollywood Haley Jays appears with Vaughn and Rip too. So that's awesome. A fun, I won't spoil any of the stuff they talked about, but let's just say there's a fun story about Hollywood meeting Rip for the first time. So you're going to want to go to Wrestling with Rip Rogers and check that interview out. So there's that. And then of course, Stevie Richards is just
absolutely killing
it. I told him I can't keep up with all his content. He doesn't need to slow down for him. He needs to slow down for me. I can't watch all these videos. Like
I played the lockup, the headlock, and the Bret Hart front buckle and the backbreaker last week at practice, 2 videos each class, and just a master class breakdown for workers to look at it, that not just and non-workers as well, to really go in with the telestrator and the absolute perfect fundamentals. And I know he's doing some Mr. Perfect stuff this week, so I can't wait to see all that either. So
on top of that, he's still doing he's testing out a total gym for you guys, like first
Yeah.
impressions of his total gym.
Yeah.
You know, and if you want to check that out on his other channel, the Stevie Richards Fitness. I see a lot of Stevie Richards Fitness going on, Ben, in the locker rooms in these pre-tapes. I see people just working those bands, trying to get a pump before they got to go through the curtain. Can't be a coincidence. Not at all. Nothing is coincidental.
No,
nothing is by
absolutely not.
accident.
I mean, everybody wants to look like him, man, especially birthday passing in his 50s. Fucking I hope so. But yeah, all the crossover, Cafe de Rene, K100. Big shout out to Kenny Bolin. He's sending me his stuff too. I just been so busy with everything going on cannabis wise. I appreciate you guys being so cool with the schedule, and hopefully maybe sign a lease today to get to the next steps in the dispensary dream. So we just keep pushing the ball forward here, man. Everybody who's suffering and in the middle of war torn, wherever the fuck, keep your head down. And if you're listening to us for Phony Wrestling Show to escape whatever is plaguing you, mentally or the world coming down, we're glad you can escape with us here on the Monday Locker Room or at Hami Media Group, Russo brand channel attitude.com. I look forward to Master Shoot Theater having some laughs with Stevie and Vince again this week, you guys. But y'all, on behalf of the vet and hacker Hameen, you infidels just got $5 face slap to kick your morning off. Y'all.
If you're not Caucasian, then